All right, Chance and I, we have covered some serious ground today. We've done just about 10 miles. And those 10 miles have been primarily on heavily used deer trails and getting back into some of the bedding and some of that side hill feeding you find where they're digging up ferns. And we haven't found anything. I haven't found a fresh deer shed all season. So, what's going on? Well, we're always told to get into the deer sign and follow it, and that's how you find sheds. Only problem is, I'm pretty sure that these deer have dropped early. I had one buck on camera, dropped one antler on December 23rd. Now, I've heard stories from a bunch of people that they dropped somewhere in December, first part of January, before there was any snow. So we have that to contend with. Some of these places I'm in, there's still 6 to 10 inches of snow back in here. So getting under the hemlocks, you're a little better off. So if there's one there, you'll find it. But here's the problem. They dropped them before they got into winter herds, where they were all grouped together. And these trails that I'm finding are winter trails, where they're all using the same trails, so they have easy movement. There's probably not going to be a shed on it unless there's a deer that dropped really late. And I haven't found one of those yet. And for 2 weeks, we've been doing nothing but covering these trails. A lot of trails. I've done about 30 miles in 2 weeks covering trails and not found one. So we're going to have to change our strategy. Some of the places we're going to have to wait, and we're going to have to go back in once the snow melts and start looking. And what I'm going to look for is I'm going to find rub lines and scrape lines and follow those first, and then get into the feeding zones. Why am I doing that? Because early in that season, still in December, the end of December, they're still kind of rutting. They're still looking around for the last does that come in, and they're still by themselves. Their testosterone hasn't dropped enough to start grouping up into little herds, bachelor groups, if you will. So they're still wandering all over the place like they would during deer season. So it's going to be harder to find those sheds. Primarily, like I said, I'm going to run scrape lines, rub lines, and look for clear-cut feeding or anything like that, because that's probably where I'm going to find sheds. That's something you're going to want to look at too. If you're not finding sheds right now, but you're finding tons of sign, it's something you want to think about. You know, if you know when your deer dropped in the area that he was hanging out in, then you're ahead of the game. I don't know that on this property. I wasn't running cameras that late in the season. I have other properties I was running cameras late in the season, and all the deer had dropped early. So those places are still high up and still have a ton of snow. That's the other thing. A lot of these deer come down the mountains once there's snow. So you'll find all of these trails and bedding and stuff lower down on ground where they've come off the mountains, but you're not finding sheds there. That's because they were still up high in those cuts and everything during that period, and then they came down after they shed. So you want to go back to those places you were finding the bucks during the rut. Plain and simple, I think that's the key this year, at least for me in my area. I don't know what is going on in your area, but if you're finding a similar situation, go back to the places that you found them rutting in. So that said, there's a pretty good tip for you. We're heading to the truck. You dejected, Chance? You want to go to the truck? Taking a rest? Let's go. You ready? Let's go.